painful. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. All
But I
right.
have to keep coming back. Like what I have is ulcers that keep coming back. So that's
Yeah.
why I have so many.
Yeah. Pylori causes the ulcers.
I
That's the
know.
cause of ulcers. So, all right. You are live on YouTube,
Painful. Yeah,
Sharon.
that's
And so,
but I have to keep coming back. Like
looking
what I have.
forward to hearing you reading Ken Wapnick.
Okay, I'm just getting something to drink. And then I'm gonna sit and read what I was reading yesterday, taking the ego lightly. And it's funny, this morning I fell back to sleep. I was up like very early, and I think I fell back. I was listening to Ken on Gather, and I had a dream that I could see that I was projecting everything. It was just so weird because I can't explain it, but it was so obvious in the dream, like, oh my God, every one of these teachings is true because I'm projecting. And it was kind of interesting because it seems like a shift of just knowing that I am truly 100% responsible for every belief I have. Even when I get thrown into a story that I think could actually hurt me. And I guess the hardest thing for me all along has been, unless I'm 100% sure, I always had that string of doubt. Now, what I'm working with now is to truly just know what teacher I'm listening to, because that's the way you know that you're not going to fall down that rabbit hole. Because Holy Spirit doesn't say the same things as the ego. It's just an isness. That's what's here. We have no people, we have no opinions, and everything that everyone has been saying for years. Now, I always knew it was true, but I had not, I think you're seeing becomes clearer and clearer as we go through the process. And that's what this dream did for me, and it just seems like it's a deepening of levels. And yet it's not deepening from anything because I'm not even there. That's the truth. Like, and I've never been here. I've been dreaming about Sharon, her life, and I somehow got caught up into believing I was Sharon. And Sharon is an idea in my mind, but I'm not Sharon. Now I am the I am, and I'm watching this ridiculous movie that everybody's getting afraid of, that that Sharon could get afraid of when she believes that this is real. So there's just like the knowing's always been here. Spirit is here, always will be. There's no way that you're not with spirit because you are spirit. The character has a script, a meaningless script. And, when I woke up, it was almost like spirit was showing me how my mind projected it. And I could never try to even explain it unless I can get a download on how to explain it because I don't know from my individual mind how to do that. So, in any case, I think the beauty of doing A Course in Miracles is that there is a depth to the deepness. Ken Wapnick um, told John Mundy, go deeper. He didn't tell him give up the book because as the deepening happens, these passages mean much more than just, uh, you know, the depth of understanding. I want to say that's what this understanding is. It's a depth of understanding, and it's interesting. Ken talks about in this book, and all my teachings are going to be about Ken right now. I mean, that's just where I'm being guided because I don't know why. I just know that's where I'm going. So I don't even have an answer. He says in this book, The Substitute Reality, I don't want to talk about the Course's view of time, other than to say there is no linear time, which means that the original projection, now this is really important. I substituted yesterday and I was sitting with this, but really sitting with it, not just reading it and saying, okay, and check and move on, sitting in it, that the original projection is occurring right now. But we think it occurs when we project our guilt onto some personally. Now, that projection is just a fragmentary shadow of the original projection that we are all constantly doing. And that's why Jesus says in the Course, you can stop right now. But the mind of you actually dissolve the ego by letting the ego do it. It's like getting rid of the ego by the ego. But really, the spirit is God, the guiding force. The ego can't do anything because it's a thought. So like right now, if I want to talk politics and then I want to just talk about an idea of a person that I don't like or whatever, that's basically a new projection because the original one is that we think we separated. So every time I have even an opinion, I'm back in the horror of the dream, which is it's a horrible dream because of the fact that we think we're these people. And the point is, like, if somebody would run over my leg or whatever, I would think I was that person because it's set up in a way that's very powerful, much more powerful because it's God's mind, right? So, what is it that we need to do? We need to just bring ourselves, and this is for me. I need to bring myself back and say, okay, I'm projecting something new here about someone I don't like right now. But nothing happened. And the projection of the self-hatred I have is something I'm asked to feel because it's all me. There's no one else out there. So I have to be 100% responsible. And, if I fall down the rabbit hole at all, it's just to choose again. You can't usurp the power of God. It's impossible. God is all there is. So how can we usurp something that's the only thing that's real? There's nothing here that is going to hurt anybody or, except for a body. Yeah, if you think you're a body, you're in trouble because the body itself is a false projection. And, it's interesting how the reality of me believing I'm Sharon made me feel more pain. So in the way, why would I wait for heaven when heaven is here right now, right? Marcy had to go to the hospital with her husband, so I think, oh, Lori's here. Hey, Lori. So, to realize that there is nothing here but thoughts that are ideas, and they're just that. They're projections. And because of my mind that is so powerful, I am absolutely bringing it to life. When we say there's nothing to fear, we're not that person. That person is a projection. It's not a reality. We are reality, right? So he's saying here, that projection is just a fragmentary shadow of the original projection that we are all constantly doing. We're always making the world right now because there is no past. And that's the whole point. I was getting upset because they're burning books and getting rid of our history and, all of that because of the respect I have for the people that seemingly suffered. But if maybe, just maybe by curiosity, this is happening because it has to be happening perfectly from the divine, that it's time for consciousness to move to a higher vibration. Maybe that's why they're doing that. We don't know what anything is for in this dream because it's all for us. So we have to know that in the end, all these horrific things and judgments that we have um, about anybody that's getting hurt out there is it's just that it's our projection. When the court says the end of sickness, it's really talking about the end of the ego. Spirit is health. It is. It's just pure health. But the only way to connect with another ego is to agree with them. Because when you agree with another ego, then we experience joining in some way. And I think that's why the ego is so attracted to that. I'm taking a drink. I'm trying to think, is Dove in that room? Because I know he's not with us now. Oneness cannot be divided. That is the truth. Oneness cannot ever be divided. And that's why we have to laugh. I mean, how can all that is be a world? So what am I seeing? I'm seeing a matrix in my mind, a story that I truly, not Sharon, the mind made up, the ego mind. We all had a stake in it, but it was supposed to be a tiny mad idea. So here we have a mad world. So why be surprised when all this is happening in a world that was made for hell? There's no hell when you die. You don't die. You were never here. And I heard Marianne the other day, Williamson's talk about that she still has regrets. And a lot of people believe what she says about, we come back. But I always got the feeling that, yes, the I am comes back, but the DNA never comes back. That's just a passing idea, too. The I am is what's real. So I heard Ramana Maharshi say, it's almost like a whirlpool of ideas that we throw back in. So our beliefs that haven't been dealt with do come back, but not the persona, not that DNA. And it's kind of exciting not to know anyway. Why would we want to know anything? The only reason I want to know anything is because I'm scared. Because if I don't know, I don't want to be surprised. Isn't that what the ego says? Anyway, Leonard, Lori, do you want to join and say anything? Maybe you're getting things done around here.
Hi, Sharon. Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Yeah.
You know what? It's interesting that you're saying that the DNA doesn't come back. And that sort of related to that, I've been thinking about what is the difference between being the witness and being awareness, or being aware that you're aware. Because if we're not a personal self, and yet so many things happen that are so loving to the personal self in the dream to make you feel better and to make you feel like life goes
all the time. All the time.
Yeah. So it's
food it does it. Food makes you happy.
What makes you happy?
Food.
Oh yeah, food. But even visits from loved ones who have passed on. I get those all the time, and they are weird and they're out of time and space. But I use them as signs that life is eternal, and they're symbols, and they're personal to me just because I think I'm a person. But anyway, what do you guys think about what's the difference between witnessing the thoughts and feelings and then being like the witness to the witness, or being aware that you're aware? As opposed to, say, even the Christ self. What is the difference among all those?
The best way I can say it, I don't know. I really don't. Because that they do talk about the fact that, the witness, as you awaken, and this happens to some, I don't know, it hasn't happened to me, where there's no witness either. There's just nothing. I think that would be Tony Parsons has said that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
could look at his work.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. Yeah. So I know that the ego in me starts getting all confused. But of course,
exactly.
It's the ego.
Yeah, the ego in me too gets confused, because it's the only part of us that wants to know anything.
There you
we
go.
We are the known.
You're right.
Only part.
There you go.
Yeah, the other part knows that nothing happens. So, and it's not The ego actually is getting rid of itself just by giving us all this. It's not an enemy, it's a friend. If you look at the fact that none of this is real. I don't know if you heard me say I had fallen asleep this morning, Lori, back to sleep. I was with my dog and I have an electric blanket and he was sitting on me. I fell back to sleep and I was laying in a bed. This is my dream, dreaming about projecting all this. And it was almost like the I am presence was showing me that everything I'm projecting,
Wow.
everything.
No, I hadn't
And
heard
it
that.
was no, and it was just like the weirdest thing because when you know how like when you have a loving thought, it can, I mean, a hateful thought, it can, as you feel it and you allow it and and you're in it and you rest in that thought, even though it's awful and the ego's screaming about it, it dissolves into love because
Yeah.
that's all that's here. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
what happened in the dream. It was like I was projecting everything. And with that, there was absolute nothing here. In the dream, I didn't see nothing. It was in the dream, but it was just, remember, the dream that I'm dreaming is happening right now, too, because there's no dream or dreamer or even dreaming. It's just how the spirit can get in touch with us. It can
Yeah.
get in touch with us through dreams, and so it was obvious to me that me not wanting to be wrong was my biggest problem, but I didn't see it because it's so unconscious.
Wow. That is awesome.
So I don't know what this all means, and I don't know if I should care because the only one that knows is the one I need to ask. And that would
Sharon,
be the higher self, right?
I
Yeah.
had a dream one time that was like that. That in the dream, I just there was nothing beyond what I could see with my just right projection. I was just projecting everything, and and I was going through the dream, going through the world, recognizing that everything that was around me was coming from my own mind, and it was like I use this example sometimes. It was like a set from an old Western movie where everything I saw was just the facade of the building, but when you look behind it, there was, the desert, or there was just the what I was seeing was just a projection, basically. And so I had that dream, and I woke up, and I was still experiencing that. And I got up, I went downstairs, I made coffee, I came in here, I, put on Pal Talk, which was a long time ago. This was when Teddy was still here. And so I got on Pal Talk and I started telling them about this experience that I was having of this being the projector of everything and everything being coming from my mind. And uh, Teddy just started making fun of me. Like, oh, you think you're so special. You think this, you think that. He really started like pushing my buttons. Obviously, I was, my buttons were being pushed. So,
You were projecting Teddy Enlin.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, exactly.
Right.
I was pissed, but I wasn't, because I knew that that was all me too. But but it's still, it I still
It's
remember
amazing. It's an
all,
amazing experience. It really is.
what's it mean? I don't know if it means anything,
It
really.
doesn't. It doesn't. But what it does for the right mind is that it gives it strength, more strength. It feels like, you know, I don't know. There's always been doubt in this mind. Like, okay, well, it's one mind projecting, but not just me. And actually, it is just me because I'm the one. There's nothing out there. So yeah, it's one mind because minds are joined. But Sharon, the dreamer of her dream, is dreaming about Sharon. And so it just gave me a whole different, but there's nothing special about, you know what I have found? There's nothing special about any of this. Even though awakening is something we think is an achievement, it's just ordinary life without an interpretation.
Right. And everybody's doing it. And everybody, you know, what I realized actually just this morning, I realized it, that we're all in the same place. We're all on the same level.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
isn't anybody who has got more or less than what we have got. We're all in the
Right.
same place. And when I wake up, everyone wakes up. And that was, you know, it was something I knew uh, when I was teaching with Regina. It was shown to me that when we were so tied together and still are so tied together, that when I awaken, she'll awaken, she awaken, I'll awaken. That's just the way it is. And then I really saw that this morning. I don't know why that came to my mind, but probably so I could talk about it now. Uh, that's
Yeah.
it, everybody. We're all awakening at the same time. There's
Yeah.
no that's above us, that is farther along. Nothing. It's all happening at once because I'm the projector of the dream, and you recognize that yourself too. So anyway, that's all I have to say about.
Yeah. It does. All it does is confirm, and hopefully the way I see it is it will give me more strength because there are things that the ego has problems with that are going on in our, seeming experience. But it's just that. So when I stop projecting, I can just rest, accept, and trust.
Yeah,
Trust that it's for me.
yeah,
Just
and just
trust that everything is for
what
me.
is it for? Because it is for me. It wouldn't be happening if it wasn't.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that is the thing I have to ask, is why do I want to see this? And when I recognize why I want to see this, and you said it just a minute ago, because I want to be right.
Hmm.
And, you know, that desire to be right and make God wrong, which is really what it is. You know, if I'm
Yeah.
right, then God is not. Then, you know, that I see that that's my mode of operation. That's the reason I'm doing it. And I can stop. You know, I can just say, God, you're right.
Yes. Yes. You're right. God, it's like I surrender because why would I want to play anymore with sharp edged toys? It's just that, when you look at the way we have taken, at least for me, I really like can be so in the dream that I think it's 100% true. And that's what the course does say. When you're in the ego, you think that's it. But recently, I've been looking at everything and not getting triggered. And I'm thinking, well, this is interesting. And what I have witnessed now is everything here is happening by itself because we are just reviewing something that's already gone by.
Yeah,
So, so like if if I say it's all just happening by itself, and I ever say to myself, I can't believe he said that to me, like that kind of thing. I mean, she really hurt my feelings. Well, first of all, I am talking to myself because there's nobody out there. And I put her there because I'm projecting her. So it's like the ego will say, well, why would I do that to myself? Because it's not real. Because that's going to wake you up because you're not the person. Nobody can be a person when God is all there is. So it's like, let's just see what else comes up for me. I love your picture on there, Lynn, of those beautiful, oh God, gorgeous flowers. This time of year is beautiful because we have like 2 weeks, and I forget what they're called. Do you know what they're called, Lori? Those flowers?
I think those are either apple or cherry blossoms.
I think they're cherry blossoms. Yeah, because
Yeah,
they
that's,
they go away.
yeah.
They're gorgeous. Like we were at Andrews this weekend in Philly, and Cliff was showing me that these only be here 2 weeks. One of my goals here is to look at nature as the miracle, because really that's who we are. We are nature. I mean, we are the same as the trees because we come, yes, our essence is spirit, but the ground of being is nature, which is magical too, and it's made by the I am. And to look at this extraordinary world and slow down is really what I'm feeling is the most beautiful thing. Like when I look at cherry blossoms, when I was with my sons this weekend, I just was sitting there and thinking, how many times do I just look at them and just go, oh yeah, they're pretty, and then get back into a conversation in my head, right? Hey, Dove. Yeah, it's just like a conversation going on in my head that I believe is me, and I think it's important. When in fact, I'm in awe. Oh my God, what did she have on there? Who put that on there? You did, Dove? That's gorgeous. I gotta find out how you did it. Come on the mic. I can't hear you.
Actually, everyone from who's going to be on the John Monday's Easter Sunday thing has this as a background. So everyone was given this. I can send you the picture if you want, and you can put it on yourself. It's just a background.
Yeah, but I love it. You know,
Actually,
especially this time of year. That's what I was talking about. Like the
yeah.
beauty of spring. It's just, you know, I love living in change seasons, by the way. I do. But you know, I was talking today, Dub. I had this dream where I could see 100% that every idea, every persona that's out there is a projection coming from my mind. And it was like it's just amazing, like just to realize that nothing here is special. Everything's ordinary. And the only problem we have is a belief in the thought. The thoughts are not the problem. The belief in them is the problem. So anyway, let's see what else he says. Ken Wapnick goes on. It, you know, that it you who believe that God is fear made but one substitution. It has taken many forms because it was the substitution of illusion for truth, of fragmentation for wholeness. So he goes on and says that is the original mistake of taking the tiny mad idea seriously. Most of you are more than familiar with that line. Into eternity, where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. The problem was not the thought of separation. The problem was we took it seriously. And what does that mean? We believed it. It's like when Byron Katie says, well, what happened when people asked her? She said, we became believers. That's what we are. We're believers. We're believing that we are these people and that all those people that hurt me were me, hurting me, putting them there as a projection. So he says here, you know, the problem was we took it seriously, which meant in the original moment we listened to the wrong voice. The ego goes, oh, whereas we listened to the voice of the ego instead of the voice of the Holy Spirit. What would the Holy Spirit say? All is well. Nothing really happened. Get that fog of clouds away from this. I want vision is really what I would want now. Anyway, that is the problem. The ego never laughs unless it is derisive laugh. The Holy Spirit laughs only because the original thought is so preposterously silly. Now I have a laugh too, but I laugh because it's like a release. Like, hell, get me out of this prison, because it is a prison. It's a prison of thought. That's all it is. And so, you know, the Holy Spirit lifts on, okay, how could part of perfect oneness wrench itself from oneness? It can't. So where are we going when we die, guys? To another level? Maybe, but I have no idea. I mean, people talk about it, but it's still concept. So we're not concepts. We're never been a concept. No, we are everything, everywhere, all the time, and we're perfection. So what I'm feeling now is just how important it is to stop, look, and drop it. Like what Vicky Poppy used to say, stop, drop, and pray. Pray. Stop, drop, and pray. Pray. You don't want these thoughts. They don't mean anything. So if I ask Jesus, like, or Holy Spirit, like, why did that happen to a family member? What answer I would get? It didn't, because it didn't. I always said, like, a dream can hurt. It can only hurt really when it's believed. Now, the body can hurt because these things are like really tied up to. I have to take a drink. We are, you know, tied up to the chakra system. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, that's why Ken is so like firm about bringing this home. If we say Jesus comes in this world, we're making it real. How could you come into a world that you're not in? It's only you as Holy Spirit and Jesus, because you are Jesus, because we're all this one being that fell down a rabbit hole into a world. And I heard Carrie say on Saturday, why do we want to stay here? And I started to really contemplate that. Oh, I can give the character many reasons for staying here, but it's all guilt. Like, let me say this, I want to be here for my kids. Okay, well, let's look at that. If I want to be here for my kids, then I'm making them real when they're God. I mean, what would you rather have your child, God or your kid? It's so simple when I just see that what I'm doing to myself when I think that they'll miss me. That's me just projecting a future. And of course, I'm going to get the same thing that I had in the past. Thoughts, thoughts. So why do we do this work? Well, we don't even know that, okay? We don't even know that because the funny part is when you realize you didn't have to do anything because you were going to be moved anyway. You're moved to pick up the book. You're moved to get a drink. You're moved to walk. You're moved not to walk. You're moved to procrastinate or not procrastinate. But the ego goes, well, I like the responsible ones.
On tariffs and worrying more about growth expectations, he's definitely representative of the dovish camp.
What's that? Who has their thing on? Anybody? Anyway, so he's saying here it was the substitution of seriousness. God and the separation thought are serious for that sweet, gentle smile. It has been one error, listening to the wrong voice. That is the error. The error is not the separation. How could what never happened be an error? You forgive yourselves for thinking it happened. That's it. Now that is an authentic forgiveness. The error is listening to the wrong voice. Like we are the cosmic listener. We're the ones that listening to this ridiculous thing that we think is real. And it's just saying to all of us, like, oh boy, it looks like my brothers or my children, if I'm the father or whatever, are just dreaming. And what is a dream? But just nothing. What is the most famous thing that I would say when I had a bad dream? Thank God it was a dream. And that's what we all felt when we opened the Course in Miracles. Every one of us. There's no way that we weren't excited because our lives are made, our stories are made to fail. They are made to fail. Now this character I played had a way of putting icing on poop just because. But when you get in there, the poop's still there. You really want to look at that poop because that poop is keeping the light away. It's block of light. No matter how many times the world has made itself over and over and over again, And it's making itself over and over again, no matter how many lifetimes you have come, if you believe in past lifetimes, and made the same mistake over and over and over again. How many times in this lifetime you have made the same mistake? He keeps writing that. It is still one error. So he's writing this over and over, Ken, because what is the mind? But it learns by repetition. And that is why most of us repeat ourselves, even when we are teaching courses that are not A Course in Miracles. Because to repeat is to really have us understand, and understanding comes really from repeating things over by repetition, really, you know? What is it? It's only guilt. Like if I say, well, I can't find it funny, there's a war going on right now. Well, if I focus on that and find it funny, let me look at that. That'd be an ego thing because it's nothing. There's no funny in a war. But I would also know always that people are safe always. That the character, I really do feel for this mind, I believe the character was very important. I did. And now I'm seeing that the character was just a communication device, period. A neutral communication device. What would I do without an opinion? You choose the seriousness of the ego instead of the sweet, gentle spirit, right? Anyway, he says here that one error which brought truth to illusion, infinity to time, and life to death was all you ever made. Everything else we ever made, from what we think of as the beginning of time to what we will one day think of as the end of time, is that one error. So, like, okay, what is going on? Like right now, I could say, well, the environment isn't being dealt with, and we could lose our. And we all want things to work out for our brothers because we know what it feels like to hurt. But even that is a passing energetic story. We are totally safe, guys. Totally. So he goes on to say how, you know, your whole world rests upon one error. It's not separation. What never happened cannot be the problem. That is really important to understand. Various serious things that have happened to all of us in our lives as individuals, as members of national groups, racial groups, religious groups, social groups, and on and on and on. Various serious things have happened, and they are very serious if you look at them through the eyes of the body or through the eyes of the wrong teacher, the teacher of the holy frown instead of the teacher of the holy smile. I just used that for the first time, and you can use it if you would like to. And everybody laughs. Everything rests on it. You can fix a house that is falling apart if you don't fix the. You can't fix a house that is falling apart if you don't fix the foundation. If you have a concrete foundation that has split and the walls are now crooked and things are falling apart, nothing you do to the house will help if you don't fix the foundation. This is the foundation choosing the wrong teacher. Everything rests on it. What he asks us a lot is look at the fact that you don't ask your inner teacher everything. He's not saying we can't pick a meal, but he's saying look at that because that's the fear of believing that we don't exist. We are existence. We are the essence of everything. But the character does not exist. Why? Because it's ephemeral. It just like dissolves like nothing. Well, how can it feel so real? Because you're in the holy mind. The mind can do anything. Anyway, anybody want to share?
Yeah, I had a couple things.
Okay.
And it really, let me fix the microphone here to make sure that I'm being heard everywhere. Um, the thing is, and we talked about this yesterday, nothing has gone wrong, right? Nothing has gone wrong. The whole and nothing can go wrong. So the whole idea that somehow or the other, we made a mistake, got thrown out of heaven. Now we have to live in a world of pain and suffering and die. That's all a story, an absolute story. It has nothing to do with the reality of our situation. It's a story that we made up to try to explain why it seems like we're so far from God's love. We're not experiencing love because it wouldn't matter how horrifying the situation was. If you felt fully loved and you loved every part of what was happening, then you wouldn't be upset about anything or worry about it or think that something went wrong because nothing can go wrong. That's the whole idea of the course. That's the whole justification for forgiveness. Nothing has gone wrong and nothing can go wrong. We can't undo anything that God made or rearrange anything that God arranged. We can't do
Right. It's nothing. Yeah,
so.
you're right.
So,
I mean, let's just say like our characters get caught in a war. We're going to have to just, this is where this work really is important because, I would say right here, right now, I have no desire to know what's going on out there anymore. But I don't know, if that's true. It could be just whatever.
right. Well, but the fact is that there's nothing going on out there. You mentioned the climate. I'm sure the dinosaurs were unhappy when climate changed,
Right.
but we wouldn't be here in this form if that hadn't happened. So because we think we know what things are for, and we think, oh, only humans have to have this kind of environment, this kind of a thing, this is how we survive. Well, the dinosaurs, they had their kind of environment too, everything, and we were the dinosaurs.
Yes. Well, we're everything always.
We've always been
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
So
we're always everything always. Yeah. And
yeah,
it's like, you know what I noticed? Sharon, had no part of like deciding that I don't want any parts. The deepening is all happening from God. That's what I'm saying. Like, we can't be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Of
right,
course, we're in a group because we're projecting it. So
right,
we're
but
projecting it all.
that's the thing that's so beautiful about it, because then you have to ask, well, what is the purpose? And how much has, we've been told, our purpose is that, we can experience God's love and God can experience love. That's the whole point of it, is for the experience of love, either love or a call for love, and a call for love is love. So, that's what we're doing. We're just here for the love, and we're here to communicate the love and to be the love. And anytime that we're not doing that, we're not happy and things seem to be going wrong. And so, how do you change that? Well, you shift then from fear to love. You recognize, oh, there's nothing to fear, nothing happened, nothing going on here. And, love is, look for it. Like, I keep saying, Mr. Rogers' mom said, look for the helpers, look for the love. It's there in everything. It's there in the war. It's there in the families. It's there in the I mean, when we say the war, that seems like it's a thing, but the war is not a thing. The war is people doing things to hurt each other or to help each other. Um, or to prevent, something from happening or to make something happen. And, it's all people. It's not the war. So, what is it that I'm not doing when I'm upset, angry about the war, in fear about the war? I'm not loving the people because I'm looking at the war. And the people are that's the only thing that matters about any of it. So, I can be happy, it's that convoluted kind of happiness that Marshall Rosenberg talks about that seems so weird, but I'm happy when you're having a problem because then you reach out to me And then we join together and we look at it and we, try to find a solution, or we have empathy for each other. What kind of joy does that bring me to have empathy for the people that I love? That, can you say that your mishap, your problem is a happy thing for me? It makes me joyful. You know, look at it the other way. Look at it the way that every every mistake is an opportunity for for us to find love. It's a call for love.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's not a war. It's a call for love.
There's a book that Cliff and I just got. It's called The Happiest Man on Earth, and he's a story. We both like inspirational stories, and it's about a man that was in the Holocaust, and it's all about him. Exactly what you're saying. When he found out, like somehow from being tortured, that that this wasn't real, he became the happiest. But he used a lot of things to get him to see that he is so much more than this person that's going to be put in an oven. The ego will, as long as you have ego, the ego will never like that. The ego will always resist things. But surrender is the only thing you can do in the ego. And so when you surrender the ego, you're with the glory of God. But the ego doesn't want that. And we believe the ego until we don't. And the ego is really like, it's what Brooklyn calls sneaky Pete. He's saying here, Ken, the workbook tells us the world was made as an attack on God. That is a very serious statement and is true from the point of view of the ego. The ego is an attack on God. It is saying God's love is not enough. Therefore, the world that arose from it is an attack. But how could a world that does not exist be an attack on God? All right, now that's something to sit with, guys. How
That.
how could a world that does not exist be an attack on God?
Yeah, it's an attempt. And it's not even an attempt to attack God. It's just saying, if I could, how would it? How would I? How could I?
Right.
If I could make something different. And can you think that it wouldn't be that God is fully aware that we're pushing those boundaries? And in fact, God is just using those boundaries to be like a checkpoint. I mean, this is really anthropomorphizing God, and absolutely not in any way at all what I think is true. I'm just throwing it out there as a thought that God wants to experience love, but God wants to experience love that is not love that just because I'm coerced into it, or because you made me to love you and so I must love you. God wanted us to actually have a choice as to whether or not we wanted to love him. And you can't make a choice if there's no choice to make. So, that's a big part of what I see this world as. This world is an array of choices, and we can choose to be mean. We can choose to be kind. We can choose to be angry. We can choose to be loving. We can choose, and there's, I mean, at every moment we are making that choice. Um, and that is really, I mean, just think about it. If and I'm just going to say this, maybe not particularly meaning about dogs, but a dog. When a dog loves you, that dog doesn't have a choice. When that dog loves you, that dog loves you because they're fully dependent on you, because you give them the emotional, loving response that they're looking for. And you guys know you have dogs. Dogs are not like cats in so many ways, because dogs really do have that um, need for reciprocal affection. They need you to love them, and they need to love you. And I'm not saying in all cases, but in most of the cases I've ever had, my dog has been like my total, sitting at my feet, companion, following me everywhere. Dogs are, amazing and loyal and wonderful. But does the dog really have a choice? Is the dog, even if you kick the dog still loves you. Even if you beat the dog still loves you. Why? Because that's the nature of the dog, is just to love whatever, whoever it loves. And so, that then says, that by the nature of the dog doesn't have a choice. Love is its only response possible. And I'm generalizing, obviously. Not all dogs are like this, and not all relationships with dogs are like this. But in general, you can see a trend where dogs will love their master no matter what their master does to them. And so that's how we would love God if we didn't know we had a choice. We just love him because we love him. And how does God know that our love is by our own free will? The only way our love, we could even know. The only way I could know that my love for God is by my own free will is by having a choice to do otherwise. And that's what we're doing here. We're here looking at all the choices that we have to do something other than loving God, other than being happy, other than being sane. We're looking at all the possibilities if we had a choice. And then we're being given an opportunity. Okay, now that you see how this is, what do you choose? Do you choose to love God of your own free will? Or do you choose to, still, be over here and be in fear? And, I mean, that's the only way I can see it. We're experiencing all the things we're experiencing so that we can um, have the free will, have the be informed to make an informed choice. And of course, the informed choice is that, of course, I love God. Of course, I want to be in peace forever. Of course, I want nothing but joy. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have this experience.
That's
And
true.
I know it sounds really convoluted, but I think that's as much as I can understand what it is. I think that's it.
It's all about like really coming to the, it's funny. I don't think that it just happens organically, this whole thing. It really does.
Yeah, yeah, it
But what
does.
you shared is true. I want to say, what's wonderful about what Ken just said in the beginning was it's made of an attack on God. Well, how could it attack God? It's a thought. But if we believe it on the ego level and we think we're the ego, it won't be, it'll be felt like an intense reality. Because the ego is total force. Ken says here, you are not going to make this world beautiful, safe, or free from disease. The disease is guilt. You don't change the mind's guilt no matter how many vaccines or immunizations you get, or how many this or that. There will always be something. One of Freud's great contributions, as I've mentioned many times, was showing how our unconscious thoughts, our guilt, find their way to the surface. By hook or by crook, they get out. That is what projection is. You have to get to the source of projection. You may be surprised to hear how very different is reality from what you see. You do not realize the magnitude of one error. It was so vast and so completely incredible. So he asks here, what does incredible mean? It means it cannot be believed because it's not true. Now I want to say that over again. What does incredible mean? Now, Ken's saying it means it cannot be believed because it's not true. That is the error of taking seriously that presupposed, I can't even say this word, presupposed thought, I am greater than God. I can find love greater than what God has given. I mean, think about it. Like when you open this book and you realize, and you're reading it black and white, the ego still has the major part in our play. But I feel like for my mind, the ego has relaxed much more. It came out a couple weeks, when the election was going on, but not anymore. It's going to have its say, and then it's going to go back and just kind of dissolve into what it is, which is nothing. It's thought. So he's saying, like, the word incredible means it's not true. That is the error of taking seriously. I'm greater than God. We have all these thoughts, but why? Fear of love. Well, you go say, well, I want love. You know that. No, you don't. No, you can't want love, the real love that's all encompassing, that has no separation, that has no specialness, any of it. The ego doesn't want that, but we do, because we are completely in a different essence when we accept our part in God's plan of the atonement. And that's why we're here. Anyway, I'm going to stop. It's 10:30, and we'll turn it over to Lynn for now.
All right. Thank you so much, Sharon. And